Okay, so we have our track chosen. And now the next step would be to create a cut down in the track if needed. And for this situation, we definitely want to do that. Look, our track itself is about 3.5 minutes long. Our B-roll footage is currently about 2 minutes, but honestly, I want to get this down to closer to a minute and a half, even closer to a minute if possible. It's probably going to be more like a minute and a half. So I did put a few markers here on our track, but let's just go ahead and take a listen of where I place these markers and I'll explain why I did that. So we have our intro. So there's the first marker. And here's where the beat comes in. Now, this intro, it repeats twice. Okay, so there's this intro, and then it replicates and repeats again. So I believe this is 4 bars, and this is 4 bars. It makes 8 bars. So it's an 8 bar intro. Now I put a marker here because to save, let's see, this is 10 seconds. If we look up here at the top, this is 10 seconds. Boom, we hit it. And then it restarts again. And then boom, this is where the beat comes in. We can save 10 seconds of our edit by scooting over and deleting that extra 4 bars, I believe it's 4 bars, that we don't need. Okay, so we still get this great intro. Song comes in here. Now, this whole part is kind of the main part of the track. And then here, you can see these two markers. This is where it goes into a more laid back breakdown kind of feeling. Okay. And right here is where it goes back into the beat. So I already know that I don't want to start the beat again here and then go into another laid back part here and go into a build and go into the beat again. That's not what we want to do. We probably want to go into a different main portion that's then going to end naturally close to where we want our actual edit to end. So if we go to, let's say, this marker, okay, so it plays again, and then there's a natural fade out that's built into the track itself. So we won't have to add a crossfade or an echo or a reverb. There already is that in the track, which is perfect. So it's going to sound natural. Okay, perfect. So let's make a cut here and let's drag this part where the beat comes in and replace it over here. Now I can drag it right on top, but a kind of a trick that I like to do is to drag it right next to it so that we're not deleting the old track. This way I can sync these two things up. So you see, that's the beat there, that's the beat there. I can go boom, and then I can hit play and they're synced up. Sometimes what happens is it'll be off a little bit and we don't want that. So what happens too is if this is the beat here and let's say I undo this and we have it over here and I want to drag it in, sometimes the markers are off a little bit. So let's see if we get it right. Okay, you see how there was a missing beat? Right. So doing that instead, the second way I did it, allows for us to sync it up. We're not deleting anything yet. And kind of drag this out, make sure the beats are synced up. And then now we can even do, let's see if this will work. So I'm going to go ahead and delete there, put this down. Perfect. And now we have this nice fade out right at the 1 minute and 30-second mark, which is perfect because I know This is going to be our ending shot. And we'll probably add like a nice fade, just like this, so that it's going to be something like this. It's going to fade. Okay, and then we can put the company website, the realtor website, the product website, whatever it is. But we're not there yet. Right now, we're just focusing on our music track and making the cut down so that it matches up with the overall video length that we want to have. And it's looking good. We have our intro that we cut down in half. We have our main part here, and we went from a 3.5 minute track to now a 1.5 minute track, but we're still getting the intro, the build, the main beat, the more laid back part, another build again right here, and then a nice natural echo and reverb out with a slow crossfade that feels normal, and it doesn't actually feel like there's an edit in the track. And that's really the goal. You want to cut this down so that no one knows that there is actually an edit. That's when you know you've done a good job editing down your music. So we have our edit looking pretty good as usual. And what I want to go into now is effectively using title cards. So this is a great opportunity in any kind of showcase video you're doing to have text on screen that explains something further. So what I basically want to do is a title card at the intro, and then there's a few moments where we can explain further what's on screen, but the information's not there, like about how many bedrooms this property has, or about how many square footage or how many square feet the property is. So if you're doing the same kind of video and it's a product, you can say things like, it's a hard drive and it's 5 terabytes and the data speed is this much and it's built to withstand a 5 foot drop and so on. So this can be used for any kind of video. But let's go to the beginning and let's kind of create an intro title. So I'm going to hit T for the text tool and I'm going to say, welcome to the, and just going to make up a name here, Hillcrest Residence. No, okay, Hillcrest Property. It sounds nice. Okay, Hillcrest Property. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to center it. And then I'm going to scale it up a bit. Or actually, I'm going to scale it back a bit. And a good way to create, let me actually turn down the opacity of this, okay, to make the text kind of stand out a little bit. A good way to create a more of a professional text when you have things on 2 lines is to vary the amount of thickness. You want to use the same font family. You don't want to have multiple font families, at least in a professional type video. If it's more like a kid's video or something that's supposed to be kind of young, playful feeling, you can have multiple font families. But for a professional video, for a client, you want to have one font family for basically the whole video. And to get it to look cool, if it's on multiple lines, you can vary the width of that font. So personally, this is a little bit too light. All I have is the light, semi-bold, and extra bold for this specific font. But what we can do is increase the stroke of the font. And the stroke is simply going to be the amount of thickness that you're adding to the text. So if we go to maybe add 2 of the stroke, then we can start to see how this is starting to look a bit more professional and pop versus just looking like that. So we got the font looking good. We can even probably scale this down a little bit. And that's the other thing that you can do is you can vary the size of the fonts. So the welcome to is kind of secondary, and then the primary focus of this specific title is the title or the name of the property. So we scale down the top row and we bring down the thickness of the font. That way we're creating a little bit more of a unique looking title card. So let's go ahead and drag this out all over the front clip. And what I've found too, and we're going to create a little bit of space between these two. So there's these different parameters. This is the space between the letters. This is the space between the letters, but vertically. And then this is the space, but with both of the lines changing. So we can create a little bit more space vertically. And I've definitely found that adding kind of a very minimal, small line with the same color as our font, we're going to drop this on. This is just a full solid, but I found a little bit of a hack a few years ago. If we take off the uniform scale and we scale down the height, we can then create this really, if we put this like 0.5, this tiny line where it can either go across the whole screen, but ideally we're creating something like that. And we can put it between both of our lines or on the bottom of both lines. There's really a lot you can play with. But this is kind of a unique thing where that's starting to look a lot more produced. And a cool thing about this kind of uniform scale, or taking off the uniform scale, is that we can actually keyframe our width. So I'm going to go to the end. I'm going to add a keyframe. I'm going to go to the beginning, and I'm going to make it go down. I'm going to take the width and shrink the width. And so if we play forward, now we have this nice growing of this line. So we're adding just a little bit of motion there to this graphic. And next, what we would definitely want to do is add a fade in. That's going to also help with making it just look a little bit more professional. Okay. And if we want, we can also vary the fade in so that the property comes in first and then the line comes in. Or we could do it the opposite way. But for now, let's just have the line come in a little bit after. And another thing that we can do, just to add a little bit more, is to scale up our text. Okay, so I'm going to go to the end of this text. I'm going to go to scale. I'm going to hit a keyframe, go to the beginning, scale it down a few points, let's say 95, hit play. So we can see it's moving forward. It's a little bit subtle, so we can actually scale it up a little bit more. Let's go to 105. And now we have our text moving forward. It's moving with the cool line that we created that we just kind of whipped up there. And now we can also add a fade out, because this just cutting to straight, just disappearing, it's not very elegant. So let's extend our text and let's extend our keyframes, because right now the keyframes are just going to stop. So if we extend the keyframes, the animations that we created are going to continue. And then we can create a fade out. I'm hitting the P for pen tool. There we go. Okay. So just like that, we just whipped up a nice little intro graphic. If I wanted to add a little bit more, let's say that this wasn't doing it for me, and I wanted a little bit more of a uniqueness, I can go in and add filters to the text. So let's say I want to go in here and add a fast blur. Now what this is going to do is it's just going to act like as if you had your camera out of focus. It's going to take the font and blur it. So we can animate this property as well. So I'm going to hit the stopwatch to create a keyframe. I'm going to go to the beginning of the clip, and I'm going to bring this up to, let's say, 90. That way, when it fades in, it also blurs in. Let's do that same exact process. let's do that same exact process as we fade out. And let's see what we got. Okay, looking pretty good. Let's copy this blurring effect that we just did and let's add it to our line that we created. Okay. Looking pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that. That's a quick way to make a much more professional looking title card. What we started with was this. Pretty average. You see that in some videos. But, the key is really to just create some animations, to create some variance in the text size and the text width or the stroke of the text, and to have, a fade in, a fade out, a blur, a little bit of motion, and a little bit of animation that just takes that plain text on screen and adds a little bit more character and personality.